The American Constitutional Republic. Affairs of state in Oklahoma. The beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3DPolitics. Featuring, of course, the VerbalViking me, TomEMcCay, right here every Monday night on Facebook Live. As you know, last summer we had all Tulsa mayoral challengers up, but this week we've got Frank Urbanek, who is here tonight to discuss how the Urbanek law firm is helping thousands of small businesses have a chance to survive. Frank Urbanek is defending 6 plaintiffs that challenged an unconstitutional government action by the state administration.
Recap very briefly, when the governor started issuing the executive order shutting businesses down, so the big shutdown in March. And so I'm going, what's his authority to do this? What's the punishment, et cetera? Really, the only way to criminalize an executive order of that type is through something called the Oklahoma Riot Control and Prevention Act. Sounds weird, right? It should. But the problem is that the governor never actually invoked the Riot Control and Prevention Act. The RCPA, or Riot Control Prevention Act, can only be invoked when there is either a disaster or there's a riot that's about to occur, some sort of civil disturbance. The other authority that he used and is using still today is the Oklahoma Emergency Management Act, OEMA. Now, in that one, it does identify criminal penalties, but the criminal penalties are for violating an order or rule of the Department of Emergency Management, not an executive order. The mayor of Oklahoma City then gives a proclamation that takes what Governor Stitt did and added on to it. So there was a lot of confusion with what Stitt did, and I think this was on purpose. Really, the biggest difference in Oklahoma cities is that there was a criminal penalty, and they were very clear. They referred to be part of their municipal code. Just to put this in perspective, Oklahoma City wanted to put people in jail up to the amount of time that they would give to somebody arrested for DUI. Now, does that make any sense? Of course not. But here's where this all comes back to the RCPA, is that what Oklahoma City was using in their proclamation was the municipal ordinance implementing the Riot Control and Prevention Act. And so I was chomping at the bit to address this because, as I said before, it requires a disaster. Yeah. And so clearly there has not been a disaster, no sort of natural disaster, no man-made disaster. And so what Mayor Holt has done is he has stretched the definition of disaster to mean COVID. The Oklahoma City mayor, he rescinded the proclamation and as it applied to bars and restaurants. So the judge did not want to go through with the hearing because he considered it a moot point. So that was our first win. And Ben Lepak, he's another attorney. At that time he worked for a think tank in Oklahoma, and he wrote a brilliant article analyzing what the mayors did, and with relation to the RCPA and others that provided the foundation almost entirely of, I think, our petition in the Oklahoma City case. And normally I'm a criminal defense attorney, so if you get arrested, don't panic, call Urbanek.
There it is. Don't panic. Call Urbanek. Your fine host, the VerbalViking, comedian, political humorist, father of 5, and former mayoral candidate, TomEMcCay. And here we are again. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we got an exciting show. We're going to move quickly. Dr. Willie J. Montague from Florida. He is running for Congress, and as you know,
Governor DeSantis is doing an awesome job with making sure that our Floridians are, one, not only have the option to be able to be actually liberty centered, but he's also given us the option to just really just be Americans. Governor DeSantis pretty much removed any of the fines that was trying. I know that the mayor was actually trying to find businesses, and he actually have strike teams, which I thought was just absolutely crazy to have a group of individuals that basically go spy out on these businesses to determine whether or not they meet the ever-changing CDC guidelines. Basically, the main issue that we have is what as you said, we do not raise awareness, and we are the ones that have the opportunity to be the voice of what takes place. That's why you are seeing across the country where people are just saying, forget it. You know, there is no mandate. You cannot mandate individuals to do something that's against their body. The first main thing is to propose bills to get rid of anything that President Biden put in place.
Yeah.
That's the first.
Okay.
That's the first
Good
main
enough
thing.
to start, yeah.
Yeah, to get in there. But no, and I've been sharing this everywhere I've been speaking, is that we have to get back to realize that all politics is local. We have to see that in every area we have issues, and I'm personally working on ground game to really get Orange County back to the place where we can function as a community, and that we are actually seeing that whatever federal dollars come down to Orange County is actually being used for the people. I just work with an organization called House of Timothy. Is my own organization that I founded some years back, and we work with youth and young adult men ages 7 to 25. We also work to fight against human trafficking, and then we also work with, of course, the homeless population. So that's houseoftimothy.com. You can visit that website and check out and learn more about it.
Okay, and so how do we contact you and support you? I mean, I love what you're doing.
TeamWillie.com is the best way to do. TeamWillie.com. Go up there. You can look at all the platforms and views, phone numbers up there. Call us, email us, and donate, of course.
Excellent. Hey, Dr. Willie J. Montague, I appreciate you being on the show. You always bring a level of excellence to our show, and what you're doing is setting the example out there in Florida, along with Governor DeSantis, and I appreciate your efforts to run for Congress, and we hope to have you on not only in the future, but on a regular basis.
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. We're going to beam you out.
Thank you, Willie.
Let's beam him in, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up, just finishing up his recent episode as mayor in Newkirk, Oklahoma. Please welcome Brian Hobbs. Way to go, Brian. Can we hear him?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can. Can
Excellent.
you influence my thought? Can you influence my thought?
I'm trying right now.
I'll grow a beard. Fine. I'll grow a beard.
Shave your head.
Yeah. That's what my wife said. Well, Brian Hobbs, way to be here. And thanks for being here tonight. No, we've had you on the show before. Has it been a year?
It's been a minute.
Is to tell us about your eyewitness account at the Clay Clark Health and Freedom Conference 2021. Everybody was there. Like I said, General Flynn, Lynn Wood, Mike Lindell, and even David D'Ambroso was there.
Yeah, I saw all of those people. I got to visit with all those people. So
did you get D'Ambroso's signature?
I did. I got him to autograph my hat.
Everybody.
Yes.
All right, that's enough of me. Tell us.
Yes.
I really wish I could have been there, but tell us what happened. What was it? Go.
Well, first, I would like to say Clay Clark knocked this out of the park. I mean, it was just absolutely phenomenal to pull something like this together. The resources, this thing went off without a hitch. I wish I could have said the same thing about our Republican convention the weekend before.
It was by design, Brian.
Well, I understand that. But anyhow, it was, I just want to give that to Clay Clark. I mean, my goodness, what a phenomenal job. I mean, everything went off almost perfect. I mean, and the level of talent that he brought in, it was just incredible. So
Van,
I know.
Excuse me, now, Van, you have to agree with me that Clay Clark, there's no way he could just stumble into that.
No, it took him 6 weeks to organize it.
That was a hell of an organization.
6 days, but it took Clay 6 weeks.
You guys want to clarify that? Go ahead, Hobbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. This guy is a rising star in my opinion.
Yeah.
I got to visit Jackson Laymeyer running against Langford. He gave an incredible speech. It was phenomenal. The crowd was on their feet. I got to meet General Flynn. I got to meet Mike Lindell. I got to meet all kinds of people. The Patriot Street Fighter. I mean, just tons of people. Nurse Aaron, gal was a whistleblower, Army vet. Just incredible people. Incredible the courage of a lot of these people. I pale in comparison. I mean, these are champs. These guys are awesome, and it was really an honor.
Red alert, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. We've been doing the entire hour on Tom's subject, but right now I've got breaking news, a surprise entrance. Let's bring in for a cameo appearance, Action Jackson Longhorn.
Hey, Tom, how are you doing?
Look at this.
Well, we've been all over the state of Oklahoma, actually. You know, last weekend, the weekend before, we had a huge event out at Rama in Broken Arrow, the Health and Freedom Conference, and it was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Incredible.
Sold out, $250 a ticket. Now get this is the best part. There was a 50,000 person wait list to get a ticket to get in. I mean, it was incredible. You had over 10 million viewers who hopped on to watch it online. I mean, it was just it was absolutely incredible what just happened in Tulsa.
Where are you speaking at again?
I was with a group called Kingdom Reign here in Tulsa, and then I'm heading to another. I'm going live on Facebook tonight. You know, Clay Clark has taken the Reopen America tour on the road. We're going from Tulsa, and we're heading down to Tampa, June the 17th, 18th, and 19th. So I'll be speaking out there. You want to hear some of the speakers? We got Roger Stone, Mike Lindell, General Flynn. It's going to be a party down in Tampa.
Down, I know you got some speakers. You got General Flynn, Mike Lindell. Now, will David D'Ambroso be speaking at all?
You're going to have to take that up with Clay. You got to take that up with Clay.
I need to get an invite for David D'Ambroso to do 5 minutes. Action Jackson Lohmeyer. There he is. I appreciate you busting in on the show with breaking.
Thanks for having me.
And an update. Thank you, sir. And please get back to us soon. Next time we can see you.
Absolutely. You guys have a great evening.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. We're going to send you away. Also, I want to talk about how many T-Rex dinosaurs are born per day. There's a new study out. We've got T-Rex dinosaurs per day that are born. And it's amazing, isn't it? Last time, I let you guys humanize yourself way too much. But I'm writing a new song about the huge problem that women are having today finding real men, and girls that are 30 are looking for guys that are 60 because all the millennial boys are just a bunch of sissies. And so it's called A Fraction of My IQ, where they both think each other is dumb because she thinks there's 8 planets, he thinks there's 9, but they're hot in bed, and that's all that really counts.
You know,
David, you and your wife do have like a sweetheart story from, Hallmark.com. Something. It's super sweet.
I robbed the cradle. I'll say that.
Well, that's just disgusting. Don't even say.
Good ones go fast.
Take it to the mattress one more time. So listen, here's the thing that I really care about, and that is science. Here's a story from livescience.com by Laura Gegel. She's the editor. And as the headline, as many as 2.5 billion Tyrannosaurus rexes once stalked the earth. Now, one of the reasons this caught my eye was because I hate these moments in PSAs where they say every 15 seconds someone dies of something, or every 3 minutes a thing happens that's bad. And the problem with those ideas and those formats of data formulation are that they separate the reading of the data from the time and the space that they took the reading. And so let me illustrate the point to explain. Did you know that there are, It is 3 1,000ths of a Tyrannosaurus Rex is born every day. 3 1,000ths of a T-Rex is born every day. And the reason we know that is from this science, livescience.com. Here's from the story. During the late Cretaceous, Tyrannosaurus Rex prowled the earth in great numbers. as many as 2.5 billion of these dinosaur kings. Aren't they delicious? And there they are, dinosaur kings. And so there's your first number, you mathematicians, 2.5 billion dinosaurs. And then it goes on to explain that they lived over a course of 65.5 million years, which is your other number. So you simply, you mix together. In science, you just take the big canister and you mix 65.5 million years with 2.5, with a bunch of 2.5 billion dinosaurs, and you wind up getting 3/1000ths of a T-Rex born every day. It's as good as the absurdity of climate change, because they say here somewhere that they are, they admit that they're within 13,328. They're off notably by 40% or something, a factor of 10 every here and there. So this is the point, though, with climate change, is they take the temperature in Jacksonville, Florida in 1976, and they try to apply that same temperature, even in Jacksonville, at a later date, separating the time-space connection that the temperature data had in the first place. And so what I'm saying is, the minute you say that the temperature from 1976 anywhere should match somehow the temperature somewhere else, that is to say that February's temperature should be the same temperature as July. It's ridiculous. The temperature changes. Furthermore, the Earth, I'll try not to scream. That's what they told me last time. Just don't scream all the time. Just quit screaming. So the Earth literally has been moving through space at 66,000 miles per hour, and there are warm and cold places in space, and you can't say that nobody has the control group or the placebo effect for the temperature. And if they can, and there's my final one, I'll shut up. If they could calibrate the human effect on climate change, the next time one of these volcanoes belches, you have to reset all your calibrations, because the whole thing, whatever your delicate analysis was that tells me when I start my SUV with the next time a volcano belches, just reset all your everybody's back to zero, new game. Thomas Sowell, in his book, The Real History of Slavery, explains with just impeccable logic how it is, that slavery created racism. It's not the other way around. In fact, he does the historical reality is that you in the beginning of time, you couldn't sail across the world to enslave someone and bring them to a buyer. That just literally, in fact, you had to learn to sail. And he documents the fact that the invention of quinine, which keeps Europeans safe in tropical areas from malaria, wasn't invented till a time that's past the idea that Europeans could have been going over to Africa and rounding them all up. Okay, so the fact is, racism is born of slavery. Slavery exists where people are vulnerable, not their color of skin. It has nothing to do with that. And also he points out, Thomas Sowell points out, that the indigenous people enslaved the other indigenous people first. It's the idea that Europeans sailed somewhere to enslave someone is secondary to the whole concept of slavery. But the point is, racism is just where they pick who they're going to make, they pick who's vulnerable. Again, this is the failure of socialism, because you don't get to pick the group picks you. And slavery is when they pick you to be in the other group. It's a story from September 13th, just 8 months ago, September 13th, 2020, and from Steve Bias at newamerican.com. And he writes, Senator Ben Sasse, Republican Nebraska, called last week for the repeal of the 17th Amendment, which changed the method of choosing U.S. senators from state legislatures as designed by the framers of the Constitution to direct popular vote. All right. And Sasse argued that this would give greater control to the states and reduce the nationalization of politics. He also added, and this is from the story, different states bring different solutions to the table, and that ought to be reflected in the Senate's national debate, Sess wrote. The old saying used to be that all politics is local, but today, thanks to the internet, 24/7 cable news, and cottage industry dedicated to political addiction, politics is polarized and national. That would change if state legislatures had direct control over who serves in the Senate. Let's just remember it's the way the founding fathers want, and he and I agree that it's nationalization, and that's a bad thing. There's only two things wrong with the Nazis: socialism and nationalism. Other than that, it's just fine, right? I mean, besides the Jews, what are you going to do, right? You hate the Jews? The only reason hating the Jews became a big deal in the Holocaust is because they were able to nationalize their socialism. Now, gentlemen, just for the fun of it, on the way out, I'm going to try to rush through last week's Tommy's Twitter tirade to let you know what happened in my life on Twitter. So here's a tweet from a news check. Can you guys see this? This is exciting stuff. Here it is. Here it is, News Channel 8. What do you think about President Biden's plan? You know, he's going to make community college free. Now, to be consistent, my response was that government plunders, it doesn't make or create anything. Therefore, the whole concept of making college free is fake news. It's literally fake news. Those that create services and products are plundered by a democratic socialist government that suggests what is desired is now somehow a right. And of course, I give you the old stop the swipe from Joe with his ice cream cone. This is great. On Fox 23 News, I wanted to show you guys this because they had a quote about, you know, they're doing all that stuff with the movie, and Leonardo DiCaprio is here. And look at him. He eats free. I think it's like a Kentucky Fried Chicken or something. But I was so proud. I'm commenting as a top fan. Look at me.
Oh,
man, I'm a top fan.
Most relevant.
He eats
He
free.
even said you're most relevant right there.
Leonardo eats. Leonardo.
Did you catch any flack for your comment? Your most relevant comment?
Well, it's funny you should ask, Oldham. But Leonardo eats free, and I'm a top fan. Look at that. But yes, so once I mentioned that Kamala Harris is a bad role model for children, that she prefers mob rule by force of government, and that she's a predatory sexual opportunist, and that Harris is a communitarian, and Nathan Dahm is a representative, and she's a fraud, and then Ian the Tolerant, he came on and told me everything I need to know. Ian the touch of the left. That's the tolerance of the left, right? There they are. Yeah. He deals with my substance so well. All right, more Tommy tirades on Twitter. Okay, here is Elizabeth Warren, which you know I got a problem with her. She says it's hard to find childcare.
Mom, she's Cherokee like you.
Well, I got high cheekbones too. And so if you think you're a woman, let's take a look, because if you don't have anything to hide, why do you care if we look up your skirt? It's hard to find a childcare if you can't find it. You might not be able to afford it. I know. If you can't find it and afford it, there might be a waiting list 8 miles long. Eminem. As a country, we need to, here it is, invest in universal, there's your nationalistic concept, childcare, so we can build a child future for every family. Now, what I said, as a country, we are in debt. Investment is for those with capital. We don't have capital. We're paying interest on indebtedness. As a country, Elizabeth, you don't have any money to invest. And did you see this one? Conservative icon, Josh Duggar. Since when was Josh Duggar ever, like, Ellen was more of a conservative icon than Josh Duggar?
No, there was about 2 months.
Josh
I know
Duggar,
because he played a key
Santorum,
role
maybe.
in my campaign for Santorum.
There it is.
He came to Tulsa and he was my hero for about 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Well, take it to the mat.
So he's been arrested, rearrested for something else?
Some sexual thing, you know.
No, it's they're claiming they found pornography on his website. I mean, on his computer. But I just want to say, Josh Duggar and his siblings, I got to know several of them. We hung out together over a few rallies in folks, his grandmother's there, and that solid people. And now, does he have, his own demons he's fighting? Does he have his own temptations?
So moving on from the conservative icon, I don't even know how they got that. Look at this. This has to do with the ridiculous
Yes, I saw that.
attack. So they keep saying that when you want to challenge electors in a presidential election, somehow Nathan Dahm is outrageous, right? But I have continued to say that gay sex and pedophilia are more outrageous than challenging state electors during a presidential election. But then this Gavacho 1223, oh God, he's a desperate wannabe needing attention. He's like 3 notches lower than Blake Barber. It's amazing. It's amazing. But he believes anything he has on the internet. And of course, my standard apology comes with Kathy Griffin hanging a bloody head. Anytime I apologize to the progressives, there it is right there. So here we go. Gender gap. And I'm still going to try. I've got to sit down and write my article. I did an article on the VerbalViking blog about the minimum wage, and Deborah Gist speaks in slur science. Is the gender gap the cause of sexual discrimination, or is sexual discrimination the cause of gender gap? This typical egg versus chicken thing. Right. And of course, like I said earlier, slavery created racism. It's not the other way around. I didn't invent that. I learned this from the man named Thomas Sowell. Look it up. Read the book, The Real History of Slavery. Slavery created racism. There is no gender gap. The wage gap is simply a social construct that only exists within the extrapolation of data, G.T. Bynum, to create a composite entity that does not exist in physical reality. Otherwise, if that were not true, women cannot logically be viewed as equal. That is, if the wage gap exists, then women aren't equal. Women are either equal and there's no wage gap, or the wage gap is there and women just can't compete because they have the inferior genitalia. Poor women. How is it that I love the inferior genitalia? What the hell is wrong with me? So to finalize Tommy's Twitter tirade, Fox 23 promotes the idea that students at Tulsa Public Schools were going to wear masks despite the expiration of the city mandate. And of course, I call that child abuse. So what we know, though, is that forcing a child to wear a mask is child abuse. The hypocrisy from G.T. Bynum at the city level has been to follow CDC guidance as long as it shoves you down. But the minute CDC guidance says children are free and you can go outside, G.T. Bynum says, no, let's continue to maintain the mask.
People, you might as well let your kids swim in flood waters.
Thank you. Shame on you, G.T. Bynum, for not following the lead of your superior, Kevin Governor Stitt. Can you explain to me this? Because I never was a fan of Senator Lindsey Graham until he sent me a check. I might open it on the air just to find out how much I got. Tonight, we are bringing in Philip Sotelo. Let me give you a little setup on Philip Sotelo. He is running in Texas, Cameron County. This guy is 17 years, a former police officer. He lost his vision that ended his career running for Congress. I'm recognizing that I'm in Oklahoma, you're in Texas, but we're both freedom oriented. And so that's why we're having you on the show. It has little to do with geography and has more to do with freedom. You're a resident of Cameron County, Texas, former police officer. You are married, have 2 grown children, and you are blind as well as your wife is also blind, which is quite inspirational to a guy like me who does lamentations, like 24/7. All I ever do is complain all the time, and you are doing more and achieving more with greater obstacles than me. So there you go. You got a platform, truth, accountability, and service. You list what you're going to support, term limits, border security, religion, gun control, police, healthcare, climate, voting rights. Philip Sotelo, I heard you on Mark Kay's show, who recently replaced Russia's slot on KRMG. So I'm glad to have you here on the show tonight.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to be here. The biggest thing that frustrates me is we got nobody on the left that is speaking out against everything that is happening against our law enforcement officers. And likewise with our Republican representatives, we got issues with people who don't want to speak up, and that itself is frustrating. Officers are being, they're being vilified based on a false narrative. Everybody in the law enforcement community isn't perfect. We got some bad people in there. I've worked with some when I had my career, but the reality is they're not all bad. And the fact that nobody's stepping up to represent them is what really gets me.
Tell our audience where to find you.
You can find me at my Facebook campaign page, Philip Sotelo for Congress, TX34. Feel free to send me an email at philforcongress@gmail.com. Contact me on Messenger. I got no problem talking to everybody.
A couple of weeks back, I came out with I published my scientific article about Tyrannosaurus rexes born per year, where I prove out with mathematical formula how it is that 1/3000th of a T-Rex is born every year. Well, I submitted that to the Royal Academy of Sciences. They basically panned me. They panned the whole thing. It's almost, I got very little response. One guy said, it's as if though McCay has no accreditation from any university anywhere in any of the natural sciences. So I was just destroyed. But anyway, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going anyway. I'm unstopped. Now, next month, we're going to, everybody should be able to share, and I'm going to right now. Here's the big news for me. And that is, we're going to we have landed the press passes to go to OKC Freedom Rally with the featured speakers, General Michael Flynn and Jackson Lawmeyer. Look at these other speakers here, gentlemen. This is on June 26th. But look at this. Nick Vujicic, Pastor Sharon Dougherty, Dr. Willie Montague, who's been on our show, Jaron Jackson, we know who he is, Dr. Lee Merritt, Daniel Navejas, Pastor Leon Benjamin, Pastor Craig Hagan, Dan Fisher, John Bennett, who's also been on the show, Abe Cruz, Claire Lopez, Dr. Cordy Williams, Jesse Rogers, Dr. Mark Sherwood. That's pretty good for a cold read. Tickets can be had and get there. Hosted by Clay Clark. It's there at the Embassy Suites Conference, 2501 Conference Drive, Norman, Oklahoma, 73069. If you want tickets, RSVP at jacksonlawmeyer.com. Visit www.jacksonlawmeyer.com. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen, June 26th, and the 3DPolitics boys are going to be there. So that's going to be exciting. Now, the other thing I want to get to before we move on and get to the epic grand jury information, I have to get this off my chest. There is a thing that happened on Twitter. It's a Twitter tirade, and so I'm going to share it with you. So notice here, look at this. Yeah, this gets really. So look at it here. Flip-flops anyone is what I retweeted, because here it is that James Langford is retweeting this idea of miss me yet. So James Langford rushes out of the woodwork to suddenly get some press when he knows he's in trouble. Yeah. Right. Also, Yahoo News, they come out with a thing about an army of 16-year-olds takes on the Democrats, this young progressives. One of the things that I'll continue to rail against on the show is progressives. They're just authoritarian tyrants. There's no deal that can be made with a progressive. They are liars by definition. The minute you make a deal with them, they continue to burn the community with their corrosive attacks on any issue they can devour. Always the ends justifies the means. Now look at this. Mayor G.T. Bynum is going to give an update on the ransomware attack, which Oldham taught us how ridiculous that was. But so my question is, why is he's still wearing a mask. Is it his health or is it his messaging? So it leads me to my riddle. How does a rhino blow a dog whistle? Answer, through a mask. Kaboom. Now, did you hear about this one? What do you think? KTUL asked about LGBT Legos. Did you see that? Anybody?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Ahead of Pride Month, Lego announces their first LBGT set. And I said, in my brilliance, like a scientist, even though I'm denied by the Royal Academy, I said, you know what? Legos work perfectly because they connect to each other just like heterosexuals. Do you ever notice that?
Boom!
Click, click, click. Because otherwise they wouldn't snap together, would they? And you could build a child. And you notice I got math there. Taco, hot dog, Lego method. Donut, bone, Lego method. 2 tacos, 2 hot dogs, 2 donuts, 2 bones. That is the anti-Lego method. But it's just science, guys. Now, here we go. Oh, poor Annalise. Now, Tulsa World, which I've got an ongoing, Tulsa World, Annalise M. Bruner had no knowledge of the Tulsa Race Massacre. On and on about how bad it is. I says, behold the failure of the federally funded public school education. If we don't know about the Tulsa Race Massacre, which is a horrible idea if you're going to do, tourism. Massacre is the worst thing. I ran a restaurant one time and they said, on here, we're going to call this dump cake. And I said, call it anything but dump cake. I'm not putting that on the menu. And they said, well, they'll know it's dump cake. I don't care if they know it's dump cake. We're not putting dump cake on the menu because it's not appealing. If you want people to come to Tulsa, don't call it massacre.
Yeah, is that as akin to slop pail?
Might as well be. But the point is here, they all cry about, we don't know anything about the Tulsa Massacre. Why? Because Woodrow Wilson's public schools, where he segregated it and glorified the KKK, and yet still the Democrats worship their government. Oh, and then get this, for the big rise, and remember, Stacey Abrams. Here is a big opportunity to do a great thing for Tulsa. And what do? They bring Stacey Abrams. Could there be anybody less qualified to say anything about anything besides Joe Biden? And what was my response? Oops. That's the Twitter tirade. We got a big show. Donald Trump Jr. was scheduled to be on the show tonight. Now I wasn't able to get a hold of him or anybody connected to him. He was scheduled. So if he comes in later, then we'll break it. He's scheduled. Donald Trump Jr. was scheduled, but haven't heard back from his office yet. But we do have Al Gerhardt tonight. It's been a long time, and I want to bring up, I've got a little minute and a half I want to play for you here. Sure. Right before I got into politics, you were already a big star out there. and okay. So I did a thing called TomEMcCay, Connecting the Dots, which was a news parody, and you were mentioned in it. So here it is. I'll bring this to you here. Here is my TomEMcCay news parody.
Connect the Dots with TomEMcCay is brought to you by the Armbar. Submit to the Armbar. Warning. Connect the Dots with TomEMcCay is a broadcast production that includes comedic content designed for those that listen and people who read. Punchlines from the headlines. If you don't know the news, you can't get the joke. Good morning, Tulsa. I'm TomEMcCay. And now news of the state. In light of the new law making mandatory the Pledge of Allegiance in public schools, Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin has hired Al Gerhardt, co-founder of the Sooner Tea Party, to help launch the new Pledge Allegiance campaign. Gerhardt will help encourage kids from around the state to salute the flag by promoting his original slogan, or I will make sure you regret not doing it.
That's absolutely wonderful.
Fake news. You can't get that joke. TomEMcCay, Connecting the Dots.
There you go.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did Mr. Brennan regret not doing it? That's what I would ask.
She is the Tulsa County GOP chair. She's going to update us on all things going on GOP at the county. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rhonda Vilmont Smith joining us at the Tulsa headquarters. Let's make sure we can also hear. There's a stalker behind you, by the way. Gigantic man sneaking out behind you. Look at
The man.
The man.
The man.
The man. David, here's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, you look at it, in 2015, we had the $415 million school bond that at that time was the largest school bond in Oklahoma history to ever be passed.
Yep.
And all they did was they mirrored it. They took the same bond, they shaved off $1 million so that they could say it was a little less than what it was last time.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then threw it at everybody on June 8th, when people are concerned about where their children are going to be spending the summer, or they're on vacation. So, you know, it's not really, they always pick these inopportune times.
Oh, yeah. I would have a question for him. If you want my money, is it to educate the children, or are you going to put together another survey to ask me what I want when you finally come together to have a meeting to prepare for the meeting? To guess when you're going to get the survey out to who, you know?
Right. Well, and what they do is, even with the survey, you know, they say that they're going to use all this money in a certain way, but in the end, if they choose not to, they can reallocate those funds. And you don't have any say in it. And I mean, there are parents out there that are angry because they supported the 2015 school bond, knowing that their school was going to benefit through renovations and things. And then their schools were, they were renovated and then they were shut down.
Yes.
Well, that's what they did back in the 1990, I think it was 95 school bond. They retrofitted 5 or 6 different buildings, Tulsa Public Schools. It was a $90 million package. They split it between technologies and building infrastructure because we were going to retrofit these buildings for the new up and coming 21st century. Once they were retrofitted, they sold them out from underneath the taxpayers. So we get screwed. What are you finding now that you're seated and moving down the path?
I'm finding that people are very excited about what's coming up. You know, in Tulsa County, we have the opportunity to, of course, defeat the school bond tomorrow. And then our goals are to take both of the school board seats that are open in Tulsa Public Schools that will be up for re-election next February. Right. And then from there, we plan on going ahead and going forward and taking at least a couple of the city council seats in Tulsa, because if all the surrounding areas don't have any city council races, only Tulsa does, and all 9 seats are up for re-election.
Oh my gosh. You're listening to Rhonda Vilmont Smith, County GOP chair right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you to Rhonda V. Smith. Let's set it up again. Let's bring in our guest at the bottom of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see if we can bring him in here. We should have David D'Ambroso joining us as we, there he is.
I mean, this is, it is what progressivism is, right? How far is far enough for progressivism? It's never far enough, right? Correct. So it does make, I mean, in a way, it's, you know, broken clock twice a day, right? She's being consistent with progressive ideology that she can never do enough. I mean, if they get every single thing they write down today, all the demands, it still would not be enough for progressivism. You notice this big loop where modern progressives, like as in the year 2021, are mortal enemies of the progressive professors of just 15, 20 years ago, which are still considered radical by the standards of most Americans. They eat their own. It's a giant serpent. It's a never-ending circle of, but it is moving towards the direction of complete annihilation and post-humanism, really, like post-humanity, the existence. This is why humans are bad. Carbon is bad. Carbon life forms are bad. Carbon dioxide's bad. Got to move beyond that. Hey, maybe it'd be really good if we merged with machines, right? Silicon's good. Carbon's bad. Be good if you put a machine right here, maybe some kind of quantum computer in your blood, like patent number 666 determines whether or not you've had your vaccines, and then you can transcend these human bonds, and then progressivism can, hit its next notch.
Actually making it sound plausible. You're so damn
It
likable.
is. I think it is a mental illness. No, really. I mean, I think leftism is pathological among some. I really pity them.
They sell their progressivism through science. And one of the problems with science is that it is essentially, to move quickly, humanistic. They sell their progressiveness on a humanistic basis, which humanist ethics, which isn't moored to anything. Humanistic ethics is unmoored because it just follows the human culture. It's nothing but populism.
Yeah, it's a moving target. Yeah, it's a moving target. I had a guy, really brilliant guy I used to work with. He is a professor of chemistry, and I asked him, well, where do you derive your morality from? He said, well, it's the majority norms of society. I said, okay, so you would have been for been for dumping the kids in the oven during the Holocaust, huh? And he said, all right, touche, you got me. I'm not going to debate philosophy with you anymore, D'Ambroso.
Yeah. God, I hope we got it all going. So how y'all been? Let's humanize ourselves before we go. Of course, nobody can ever know where I'm at because I went totally.
Everything stays there, doesn't it? Except when you brought.
Unless I record it on Facebook Live, and then you'll never know. Van, what have you been doing out there? Where are you? You look like you're mobile.
I've been hanging out with the old man. Now, I'm currently driving not the COVID chase car, but the Tyranny Evacuation Mobile Unit 1. This is the Tyranny Evacuation Mobile Unit 1. And I just fleeing the People's Republic of Minnesota with Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, Ilhan Omar, and the bunch. I tell you, I had to drive through the Beltway Loop of the Twin Cities twice. And glad to be out of there with my life and liberty. By the way, the closer I got to the Twin Cities, the more I saw masks. The further I got out in the heartland, Minnesota, nobody's wearing them.
Right. Oh, man.
Nobody's wearing them.
I thought I was going to start the show, but now Van opened up a cathartic issue for me. I've never been prejudiced in my whole life, but now I do. I prejudge people who wear the mask. Not because of any other thing. When I see them wear the mask, I assume that A, you're probably not that compromised, otherwise you wouldn't be out and about. And if you are, I'll give you a break. But I mean, if you are walking around now with a mask, I literally think you have lower IQ. I mean, I think you have a mental problem. We do it every Monday, almost every Monday for over 2.5 years. Gentlemen, welcome back to the state, and everything is now settled in. How have you been over the last week? I was pretty impressed we were able to pull off last week's show on the move. That was a good job. But 3 different states, that was pretty good. Yeah, Van was really on the move.
Yeah.
To humanize ourselves. The shadow ban goes all the way to PayPal. I had my $340 in PayPal, and since I was on the move, I thought, what the heck, I'll use it. But since I checked in with a different iOS, PayPal said, you are no longer allowed to do business with the PayPal. And I can't touch my money. And I thought, 180 days. How long could that be? 6 months. So yeah, I thought, well, Merry Christmas to me,
So if you check in from another device, they hold it for 6 months.
I think it's anytime they want. User agreement says we hold your money anytime we want, is what it says. But that's so I'm writing a little song that's goes to their online hold music called PayPal's Dead to Me, like that. Anyway, the gay pride crashing. I will say I was listening to NPR as I was doing my travels, and they were talking about the gay pride parades, and it was an all kind of a gay host. And they were complaining that now that they've been accepted by the heteros, that the gay pride parades are being infiltrated by straight heterosexuals bringing their kids to enjoy the parade. And they're kind of upset because all this work that they've done to become accepted is really backfiring because people are coming out to enjoy the parade and not supporting them for the reasons they want them to support them.
Oh, yeah.
What? So they're now, the gays are mad that the heteros are accepting them. They don't, because... And here was their logic. Remember when we were gay and they said we were on the edge and the fringe of morality? And we said,
my God.
And we said, no, you must just please accept us. Well, now when the kink community is what they call them, we're having to tell the kink community to tap it down a little bit for the parade because the heteros are bringing their children.
Oh, Tom.
Okay, so the gays are feeling like they're having to gate their own kink community, and that's not what they stand for. And I'm like, bring out and grease the goats.
They call themselves Queer Nation.
Yep. They were the organizers of the Manhattan Parade for years.
Yes. Yes.
Before Pride Month is over, can we get the gay community to get a cod piece for the Golden Driller? We need some sort of bump at all, anything. Really. So Deborah Gist, a Tulsa Public School superintendent, she put up a frame and a thing behind it says, I welcome you as bisexual, transsexual, all these sexual terms. And as the superintendent of children, I ask on my Twitter feed, shouldn't that be like predatory behavior?
Yeah.
That should be labeled as sexual predatory behavior, advertising literally to children about I welcome your sex.
Well,
literally, she's advertising for sex with children.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what every employer needs to realize. It's sexual harassment. Because she is putting sex out there when she should just be, a kind of a teacher mother figure and just put herself out there as an educator. That should be what we see from her, but that's not what we see from her. What we see from her is hanging, sexuality hanging out. Well, I'm going to advertise my sexuality. It's like, nah, you know what? I don't want to know about that stuff. TMI, sorry. and if it makes me uncomfortable, it's sexual harassment, right?
Well,
it's all about me and what I feel. It's not about, what really might be going on. It's really about what I feel.
Well, no wonder the kids need a counselor when you got the superintendent hounding you down like a thirsty dog all the time. Let's bring Kevin Batts in right now and see if we can see him. Kevin Batts, are you there?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
There's the man.
Nice to see you again, Kevin.
Good to see y'all. How y'all doing?
Hey, as we get started, before we get rolling into discussion, let's remind everybody who you are and where you are so that they know how to find you, so that I don't try to remember it all. Tell them who you are, where to find you, and get in contact with you, Kevin Batts.
All right. I'm from Project 46. Our show is called Red River TV, and Project 46 is a network that me and my friend Miles Rahimi is starting to basically bring a conservative type network where a lot of different conservative channels can come together under one roof and hopefully have enough resources to do the things we want to do to affect the national or even the local political scene.
Nice. Yeah. Let me just real quickly share a picture. Now, Jackson Lawmeyer is running against James Lankford. James Lankford has some personal pronouns that he likes too. And so let's just go ahead and let me try to share this picture.
I think I know.
James Lankford, the Lank, the Lankster, Lanky, Mr. Lang, Langy Lang, Langton. You don't have to call me Johnson. James Lankford, the Lank, the Lankster, Lanky, Mr. Lang, Langy Lang, Langton. You don't have to call me Johnson.
How do you like that?
I think they're throwing everything at this but the kitchen sink to take out this flip-flopping senator that we have right now occupying our seat in Oklahoma. So hopefully we can get this guy out of here.
This guy here?
Yes, exactly. Flip-flop Lankford. And he identifies as a flip-flop. I don't know if you knew that. So that's his preference as a flip-flop. And if you're ever in Old Navy and you see some flip-flops there, just think Lankford.
I think he's just the left flop, isn't he?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, any man that would go up to Washington, D.C. and apologize to BLM and apologize for actually for upholding the Constitution. He apologized to BLM for upholding the Constitution.
We're going half the hour at the top of the hour with Michael Bates. And that's going to be exciting. You know, he just had some stuff happen on Facebook. Plus, he's going to fill us in about Gilcrease Museum. And anybody from Tulsa knows who Michael Bates is. Anybody that doesn't know anything about Tulsa can learn all about Tulsa from batesline.com.
Yesterday was the final day for anyone who wanted to go and visit Gilcrease Museum and see it as it's been through most of my lifetime. Major expansion in 1963, and then a bigger one doubling in size in '87, which is pretty much how the museum's been for the last, 33, 34 years. And now they're they did a bait and switch. They told us they wanted $75 million to improve Gilcrease. And instead they decided last year, now we're going to demolish it all, build something new. It's going to be about 60% of the size that it currently is. Now the claim is that they've got all this material in storage, these huge collections, and they can only show a small percentage. So by rebuilding in this new way, it's going to be super duper and amazing, and they'll be able to display far more artwork than they currently are able to. I have a hard time believing that. And recently I wrote a piece for Batesline.com that talked about Gilcrease, gave a little bit of the history, and showed some of the politically correct trends that have been going on with the museum over the last few years. Particularly, it seems like a major change in direction happened in 2008, which is when the city of Tulsa, under Kathy Taylor, decided to hire TU to run the museum. Now, you may have noticed if you've gone to Gilcrease recently, their signs will say a partnership of the University of Tulsa and the city of Tulsa, which is not really an accurate picture. We own the collection. Citizens of Tulsa, we had a bond issue to basically pay off Tom Gilcrease's debts back in the 1950s in exchange for receiving his collection, which he then paid back over the course of a very long period of time through oil field earnings, basically royalties from his oil wells. And then there were further donations, but it's the city of Tulsa's collection. We just hired TU to manage it, and then TU began acting like it was theirs, which is worrisome. But it's theirs to run, it's theirs to decide about. There was some kind of, so we've seen things like a claim. There was a video done by one of the senior curators that said, yeah, we think this artist and who went out west to see the great trappers rendezvous in modern day Wyoming. Yeah, there was something kind of funny about him and these other two guys. They were real good friends, and what do you think? This was probably LGBT in the old west. Early day Brokeback Mountain situation here.
They've sexualized in their own mind the interaction between these people.
Right. Friendship. There's basically no such thing as male friendship in the modern view. It's either you hate each other or you're out to have sex with each other. So there's that direction. There's a whole colonialism thing. They had this. The highlight of Gilcrease for years is the great collection, world's largest collection of works by Thomas Moran, the Great Western Landscape painter, originally from England, who came to America and was just blown away and created these wall-sized depictions of great Western landscapes. C.M. Russell, Frederick Remington, and the dramatic bronzes of cowboys and horses and Indians that are on display. Well, they created this exhibit called Americans All, and to contextualize Thomas Moran and C.M. Russell and O.C. Seltzer and all these other artists, they created this exhibit focusing on the fact that these were all immigrants to America. And here are some other immigrants, recent immigrants to Tulsa, and some of the artwork they created, like a video of a woman, young Mexican woman who was making herself up to look whiter, to look like an Anglo. And that making the point that she can never really not be Mexican, no matter how much chemical she applied to her face and how much she.
And this is an external problem somehow to her. It's not an internal problem for her.
Right. Yeah. Basically, she was saying, kind of interesting, because she was saying you can't be trans-ethnic. You can't. You're not going to fool anybody by trying to be trans-ethnic. But
Michael, you're bringing up something here. David Brinkley once said about national media. He said, we can't always tell you what to think, but we can tell you what to think about, and that may be true of our museums as well by the things they choose. Like the curators at Gilcrease once told me that they can only show about a fourth of their artifacts at any one time.
That's
so
right.
How do you choose which things you let the public see, and then how do you cast light on those things?
Right. What kind of context do you put them in? And the old way to do it was you just put the paintings on the wall. You might put a description of when it was painted or what the subject matter is. Where is this landscape that you're seeing? This is the Shoshone Falls in Montana. This is the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone River. And you just leave it for people to enjoy, and you don't offer a lot of interpretation. But that's not the people who are running museums today were in college learning museum science from leftists. So the critical theory that we see infecting everything, that was what they were raised on. That was their training as museum specialists. One of the things I worry about with a 3-year period now, they're saying it's going to be sometime in 2024 that the new museum would reopen in a new building. That's a lot of time for things to disappear or to get forgotten in a warehouse. And it's time for people to get used to the idea. If they were closed for a month or two, people would go back and say, hey, I remember that was over in this gallery, and where did it go? But after 3 years, it's kind of like with the pedestrian bridge. Finish that thought. With the pedestrian bridge, when things kind of vanished for 3 years, it was closed off because Riverside Drive was rebuilt, and they maybe accidentally knocked down the eastern section of it, so you couldn't easily get to it anymore and couldn't use it. So that gave people a time to get detached emotionally from it. And it made it a lot easier when they finally decided to tear it down. And it also helped that city council didn't want to hear anything about it from the public. And I think something similar could happen here. They could say, well, after 3 years later, oh, you remember that the painting by C.M. Russell? Well, no, I don't remember that. I don't know what happened to it. Now there's this intermingling between, well, what does the city own? What does the university own? Who has control over the collection?
Please explain what we're reading here.
Okay, so Wednesday I wrote my post about Gilcrease, and I wanted to give people time to alert people to the fact that this is closing on Sunday. It's your last chance. These are your last 5 days to go and see this. And I thought, all right, I know Facebook doesn't believe in organic reach anymore. They're not going to show your ad or your post to people who have subscribed to your page unless you pay them for that privilege. All right, I thought I'm going to go ahead and do this as a way of that maybe reconnecting in a better way with my readers, and making sure they have a chance to see this collection one last time before who knows what happens.
Right.
So in my post, I said, please share this. And I put share in capital letters if you want your friends to know about this, because Facebook has a tendency, I'll see things that were posted pre-election 4 or 5 days after the election. It will come through my Facebook feed. That's whether it's deliberate or not, it's certainly a part of their algorithm. They do not want to make it easy for communicators to reach their audience without crossing their palm with silver. The warning that you showed on the screen there was, hey, your ad, we showed it to fewer people than you paid for because we thought it was low quality. And it was low quality because you urged people to interact with it. Well, so it says, language that entices people to inauthentically engage with the ad or landing page to complete an action, liking the post, commenting on it, sharing it with a friend in the ad text. So my interpretation is, because I said, please share this so that your friends have a chance to go see this collection while it's still there, that made it low quality, and they throttled it without, I didn't see this until the ad had finished running. I ran it for 1 day, and I was curious to see, I got a little notification, your ad's finished running, here are the results. and there was this warning. So there wasn't actually even a notification that my ad had not passed muster earlier. I could see maybe they think that's manipulative to actually tell people that they should like or share.
No, it means they can't get their money.
Exactly.
That's the problem. They can't get their money.
Yeah. If you tell everybody to call 3 friends, why, that's circumventing Facebook.
Right. But this wasn't even, this was saying go through Facebook, but share the link.
Yeah.
Share the link on your own.
Without paying them the extra money.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's
People would
why.
be sharing it, and it's what they used to call organic reach. And that was, well, what you need to do is build your audience, and then you'll reach people organically. But then, we all jumped in. We all went from using our own notification procedures on our own little websites and blogs, and we said, oh, we can do this through Facebook. You can like my page, and you get updates on my post when I say that I've got a new post up, and that'll be great. And then once they had us all locked in, and the other technology, like the RSS feeds, I know, David, you still use that on Sooner Politics, which is great, but Google Reader went away. That made it easy to have an aggregation of everything you read in one place.
Yep.
They got rid of it, and a lot of other things like that have just gone away, so that you were dependent upon social media to spread the word, but then we can't count on social media even when we pay money.
So instead of building an audience, they want you to buy an audience from Facebook.
And apparently keep buying it for forever and ever.
Yeah.
Tommy, thanks for having me. I always appreciate coming here.
Okay.
So Oldham and I had this discussion, and we kind of agreed where we should be constitutionally. Unfortunately, where we have the disconnect is the philosophy of responsibility, both in our policing and within our society as a whole. So that's really, I think, where David and I have a disconnect as far as who is actually responsible. The issue here, as I see it, is one of the points that we talk about is basically making our officers who are enforcing the state statutes the villains here, right? And that's not the issue so much for me, in that what we're doing when we do these types of things, when we're demanding that our officers, quote unquote, put their own constitutional or create their own constitutional conscience, right, based upon what they've been sworn to uphold, right, to protect the public and to uphold the laws of that state, right? The problem, as I see it, is when we do that and we put them on the hot seat for these sorts of things, for the laws that they're enforcing, we're indirectly creating another layer of government, number one. And then number two, we're removing our own responsibility for electing the officers, or excuse me, the legislators who pass these laws, number one, and number two, for electing the judges who uphold these laws, right? So we have multiple layers of responsibility, ourselves, the legislators, and the judges. So if here in Oklahoma, being quote unquote the reddest state, why haven't we reversed some of these laws that are so unconstitutional?
We have,
right?
haven't we, though? I mean, didn't we just pass permitless carry?
That's correct. But if we're calling certain crimes victimless, like one of the issues that we talked about was like speeding tickets, right? If we're calling that a victimless crime, why do we have those laws still on the books, right?
That's a good question.
Because just like David said, it's almost a scheme, right? Because that's Oldham's term.
Word.
The word scheme.
Yeah.
I'm putting you in context, my friend.
You're good.
So the term scheme, he talked about going down, and was it Sapulpa or Sand Springs?
I was in Sapulpa for my incident, but it was Adair where they were stopping people lately, and there's a lot of speed traps in
Right, but you were
Oklahoma.
talking about where the DA was the one actually making the deals, and people basically acquiesced their fines over to the government, right?
Correct.
And it was basically a money making scheme. So the issue for me is that, to me, again, we're trying to indirectly hold our officers accountable, which you guys always know, being an ex-law enforcement guy, I'm always going to defend our law enforcement officers because we put a lot up on them. But the point that I was making when Tommy went on his rant there for a little bit. The point that I was making is that yes, he is right that if the license plate is run, there is information the officer has before he goes up to the car. However, he doesn't know the individual specifically. He doesn't know what he's getting into. And again, this is where I have a little bit of disconnect, because it's not that it is a little bit of an exaggeration that every stop you're risking your life, because yes, it isn't every stop, but there are those incidences, and we're asking them to take those risks for us every time. And to me, it's like I said, I think we're putting a little too much on the middleman between ourselves, our legislators, and our judge or our judicial system. And to me, we have to take some responsibility in the laws that our officers.
Thanks for being here, guys. Three D Politics.